All right, Broncos country. Well, there's no intro video today because David with David Talks Broncos, who's the usual guy that does all of the hosting and kind of keeps you guys all entertaining, really keeps the show going, is not joining us today. But I am joined by my good buddy Kodiak with Kodiak Broncos podcast and my guy Jeremy with Broncos Unbridled. How you gentlemen doing today, man?
Fantastic. Ready to talk some Broncos, ready to talk about Davis Webb, ready to review the offense as a whole from 2025 as well.
I love it. I love it, man. Oh, hold up. I got to do this. There you go. Jeremy, how you doing, bro?
Good. Doing well.
You guys been enjoying the you got like a relaxing weekend with no football and all that good stuff?
Nope.
I mean, it was relaxing, but it wasn't like I didn't prefer that.
Yeah.
I preferred if I was really nervous about this upcoming weekend, but it is what it is. All things happen for a reason. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I was happy to get some of the Broncos news today. I was hoping for that. So,
well, that's a perfect segue, Jeremy. So we'll start with you, man. Obviously the big news of the day, Broncos and offensive coordinator now, Davis Webb. It's finally official. They put pen to paper. And obviously the big question has been what's the, is it going to come with play calling? Is it not? But Jeremy, I'll start with you. Kind of what were your overall thoughts and what are you hoping to see from Davis Webb and this team moving forward?
Yeah, I was just happy. Like once I saw the news that he had pulled out of the Raiders job, I was like, okay, I can't imagine this is going anywhere else. That being said, the way I kind of envision this pairing and the difference it's going to be is like, think about a world-class restaurant, all right, where Sean Payton's the head chef. He designs the menu. It's his vision of the entire restaurant, the way it should be run. And Davis Webb is now like his sous chef or line cook, however you want to say it. He's the one that makes sure it's prepared properly, it's on time, everything comes out of the kitchen like efficiently and puts everything on the plate together. And the head chef will oversee everything, but he's not the one that needs to have his fingers in every single plate. So that's kind of how I envision it. I think one of the frustrating aspects of Sean being the sole play caller and all that was getting plays in on time. And that was definitely frustrating for Bo Nix. And I think that hopefully Davis Webb will have that a little more streamlined.
Yep. Well said, Kodiak.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of my frustrations this past year with the offense, and I think a lot of, our failures on the offensive side of the ball can just be simply traced back to the fact that it seems like Sean Payton just had a little too much on his plate. Okay. Jeremy talked about, Sean Payton is the head chef and Davis Webb is going to be the guy and maybe have a big role, substantial role in, putting his fingerprints on the offense. Mark, I know you had talked about, Bieniemy with Kansas City when he was calling third down and red zone plays. So yeah, that's the question on everybody's mind is what exactly is Davis Webb's role going to be? Because let's be honest, Joe Lombardi's role, as far as we know, was probably not that substantial. And I imagine Davis Webb is going to have a much bigger role in this offense. And yeah, I'm just excited for him, excited for the opportunity. He obviously lives here. He probably loves it here. We know he really likes working with Bo. First guy, usually the second guy to greet Bo as he's walking off the field after Sean Payton as well. Their heads are buried in that tablet. So yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited to see what this offense looks like. And yeah, what about you, Mark?
Yeah, man. No, I mean, I love it. Obviously, I feel like we expected it, but it's nice to see they finally put pen and paper, which is always a good thing. And I think with me, it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of go about managing all this. But I'll say this, man. I don't know about you guys, but I watch every single presser, every single one, all the Wednesday ones, all the Thursday ones, Friday, all the players. Except I would never watch Joe Lombardi because I could genuinely care less about what the hell he has to say. Very boring guy too. But pressers are going to be Thursdays are going to be really, really fun to listen to Davis Webb talk, man. I feel like, I don't even know if I've heard him speak before, but I feel like he's going to be a really entertaining person to listen to. So that's a big positive. But No, I think this is huge. And I was listening to Cecil and Mace earlier. I was watching it like just before this. I wanted to get you guys' take on it, but they made an interesting comparison. They said that Davis Webb, this kind of, and Bo Nix, this kind of feels similar to like the Elway Shanahan thing, right? You know, Shanahan was the OC. Then he left for a few years. You know, Davis might not necessarily need to leave. And then he came back. I just thought that was interesting. I was that could be something that maybe they end up, tied at the hip. But yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. So I don't know if you guys have anything to add with that. But I thought that was, history always repeats itself here in Denver. So you never know, that could happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was like thinking while I watched the exact same thing you did, and I was like, I actually think it's similar to a different combination. I think it's more similar to Shanahan and Gary Kubiak, Sean Payton being the Shanahan role and Davis Webb being the Kubiak role, and Elway and Bo being similar, because you almost need like the guy to like translate everything and maybe get everything smoothed out. And maybe the guy who Kubiak would be like the guy who's actually calling the plays in, being calm in the headset, saying, hey, let's look for this, look that, where Shanahan is the one who has to oversee everything. So I look at it more like that. I think they have more similar personalities. I don't see Davis Webb's personality to be like Mike Shanahan. I think it is more like Gary Kubiak. It's just a little more calming for everybody. So that was when I was listening to that same thing, I was like, actually, yeah, it's Kubiak. I think it's more like Kubiak.
Yep. Any other thoughts on that, Kodiak?
I mean, somebody in my comments said something interesting, and I was like, that really doesn't make a lot of sense. I highlighted it during my live after I was, going over Davis Webb being named the offensive coordinator. And somebody was like, this is Reeves, Shanahan, Elway all over again. And I'm like, who's Reeves in this situation? No, but no, not really any thoughts.
That was Hackett. Hackett was Reeves.
Yeah. No,
we went through that phase.
I'll always defer to Jeremy when it comes to Broncos history or whatever. But yeah, so he just explained my thoughts.
Yeah, well, Elway didn't love playing with Reeves because they were very opposite-minded. Elway wanted the control to do more things. He's seen Dan Marino throw for 5,000 yards in his second year. And Elway's like, give me a chance at that. And Reeves is like, no, we're going to run the ball until we absolutely need you to pull something out and then do that. And I don't think Sean is like Reeves at all. So those Super Bowl run years where we actually won Super Bowls, that's where like Kubiak to turn from a backup quarterback to now being like the play caller, but like he'd be basically assisting Shanahan, but also being in the ear of Elway. I think that's exactly what this is more like. So yeah.
Yep. Now I'm excited, man, and kudos to Jeremy. I think you coined this phrase. We're gonna start using it, man. But WebMD, come fix this offense is what Davis Webb is gonna be. I love that. I thought that was awesome. We're going to be using WebMD, even though usually WebMD is what people use to kind of self-diagnose themselves, where they just like have a minor headache and all of a sudden they have brain cancer. But I'm really excited, man, just to see the differences, if any, in the offense. Right? I don't know if he ultimately calls plays or not, or like we talked about, does a little bit of a mix, but it's going to be awesome. But so good news there. We'll see how the rest of this coaching staff fills out, who the secondary coach will be. I'm sure they'll add a few more on offense as well. Wide receivers coach and a couple assistants. You guys want to get into your 2025 offensive ranks overall? Is that what you want before we get into giddy up and
Sure.
hold your horses?
Yeah, absolutely. But one more thing to note, Logan Kilgore. How about that? Being named the quarterback coach,
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with him, but for those of you who are, I think he's more of like a college football presence or like a guy who was like in the CFL or whatever. But any thoughts on him?
All I know is if Sean Payton is tapping a 20-something-year-old to come in and be like a QB coach, that I'm excited about that, because I don't think Sean Payton is very similar to Shanahan, where it's like he wants those young, hungry, smart, bright guys that end up down the line being the tree is insane, the LaFleurs and the Kyle Shanahans and the McDaniels and all those people. So I'm the same with you. I didn't know much about him, but then once I learned about him, I was like, oh, there's got to be something to this kid. There's no way that Sean would do that. So, and maybe he's tapping. I mean, let's be honest. If we end up a year from now being in the same position or in the Super Bowl, like, do you honestly think Davis Webb is going to be long for the Denver Broncos? I doubt it. Like, that's what the NFL is looking for, is young, up and coming, offensive minded coaches. So I just don't, I mean, to be grooming the next one is probably pretty smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting with Kilgore too. I mean, I saw that he actually played. He was on the practice squad for a season with Sean Payton and the Saints. Coming out of college, he was undrafted. He played at Middle Tennessee State, and then so I guess I don't know if Sean just saw something in him, and then he ends up going and playing, for the Canadian Football League, the Toronto Argonauts and the Edmonton Eskimos. Oh, and you can add the Hamilton Tiger Cats to that in case you guys, for any of you fans. And then he got into coaching. He's taken a really weird path because he's 35, so he's a little bit older than Davis Webb is. I mean, a little bit older than me, but he was a quarterbacks coach at Bakersfield and then Arkansas State. And then he was a high school coach. And then all of a sudden he was the Broncos offensive quality control coach. So that's a pretty big leap. So it'll be interesting. But man, I don't know why I feel like that name. I know I've seen his name on like the quality control roster, but I could have sworn like I've heard that name before way more often. So I don't know if I'm confusing it with another Kilgore or something. Maybe you guys can help me out in the chat. I'm not sure, but it'll be good. It'll be good to see what it is that he can do with us as well. So I dig it.
Yeah, and you had already mentioned that there's been a lot of talk about Davis Webb potentially being groomed to be the next successor, and I think we should probably put that to bed. I think I'm along the lines with you, Jeremy. Is I know that the meta is kind of shifting towards defensive head coach and offensive wonder boy, but man, the NFL is cyclical, and it always goes back to these offensive head coaches. And Davis Webb, he got interviews this past cycle, and I can promise you, assuming things stay on the current trajectory, he's going to be gone within a year or two. And Sean Payton says he wants to coach for 8 more years. Now, wants to and can, in the case of Sean Payton, are 2 entirely different things. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that as well.
Yep. No, I totally think
well
timelines
said.
don't go together. Yeah.
Yep. No, well said, man. All right, Jess. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into the kind of the full season Broncos ranks. We're going to focus on the offensive side of the ball today, and really just give the full. What do we play? 19 games that we played. We're going to give grades for each position. So, Jeremy, I'll start with you, man. It looks like you gave the quarterback Bo Nix an A, and Kodiak gave him a B. So, Jeremy, tell me where you got the A and obviously what you liked and maybe some room for improvement for big Bo Nix.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm factoring in some context with this. Obviously, he's a second-year player. Nobody has won more games in 2 years than Bo Nix. And if you're telling me like Bo Nix, I mean, if winning's the most important thing, that it starts right there, right? Second of all, for a second-year quarterback to be able to do what he's done, and I think he showed a lot of his superpower is his clutchness. I mean, he's got everything. He can beat you with his arm, he can beat you with his legs, and he can also beat you with his mind. And I think people kind of handicap him a little bit by saying, oh, well, you have Sean Payton. Oh, you have this and that and the other. Well, no other did somebody stalkerize more from not playing than Bo Nix did after seeing the difference between him and his backup. I don't think anybody can fairly say like we wouldn't be in the Super Bowl if Bo Nix played in that football game. So if you're saying that Bo Nix was going to get Denver Broncos to a Super Bowl when you picked him 12th is crazy. So if you asked me before the season, this is where we're going to be with Bo Nix, that's an A for me, And I do think like the other thing that his X factor is he mitigates so many little issues with the offensive line that totally goes unheralded. I think people assume that, oh, he's got this amazing offensive line that can never do wrong, and he's just sitting back there all day. It's like, obviously not. That is not what he's doing. He gets us out of a lot of jams. And yeah, I know people can be frustrated with like some of the middle of the game, the quarters aren't perfect and all that kind of thing. But like, again, for a second-year player, I don't know how you ask too much more from a guy like that.
Well said, Kodiak. Why'd you give it a B?
Yeah, man. So this is basically like I'm attacking it like my school used to do semesters, but we'd have quarters. Okay. You'd have your first and second quarter grades, and then your average would be your semester grade. Honestly, if I'm just divvying this up between first half, second half of the year, first half I'd probably give him a C, and the second half I'd give him a resounding A. Here's why I would give him a C for the first half of the year. First of all, the run game was working, but it felt like anytime he actually dropped back, there were very few times that I actually had confidence that he would make a play. Now, we did have good games in the first half of the year, like Cincinnati, like Dallas, and that was all fine and dandy, but there were a lot of struggles. And I think, in the first part of the year before the Chiefs game, while we still had healthy Dobbins, I think Bo was primarily the responsibility for our struggles. A lot of people wanted to blame Sean Payton, and I didn't think Payton did a whole lot to help him out with that. I don't think the receivers were doing a whole lot to help him out with that either. But when it came down to it, you look at just the stats. Like I remember I was showering before the show. I remember looking at the like on target throw percentage from the first half of the year, and up until the Raiders game, like pretty much anything 10 to 19 yards had a 50% chance of being off target or being dead on arrival, which just isn't good at all. That being said, the reason I gave him an A for the second half of the year is because this defense was not what it once was down the stretch. And you didn't have J.K. Dobbins, and the identity of this Broncos team in the second half of the year was Bo Nix carrying the load. And anytime, I can't stress this enough. Okay, anytime, well, after the Chargers game week 3, anytime Bo Nix had the ball in his hands to win the game, he did. And that should mean a whole heck of a lot. He won us the game against the Buffalo Bills. He won us the game against the Philadelphia Eagles, came back on the road, handed the defending Super Bowl champs their loss. So all that is fantastic. And you know what? We for sure have our franchise quarterback. A lot of people, I saw a lot of Patriots fans on Twitter saying, the Broncos have an Eagles offensive line. And I'm just like, before the game, and I'm just like, all right, cool. Yeah, that Eagles O line, where your all pro is literally giving up 7 pressures in the biggest game of his career. So, yeah, once again, everything that he did this year, in the second half of the year in particular, was fantastic. But I think it's fair, my grade is composite. It's fair to ask, why were we in so many situations where we had to have him bail us out? And once again, he was part of that problem, but you know what? He always did. That's why I kind of chalk it up to a B. I was expecting things operationally to look a lot cleaner than they were, just based on how the 2024 offense, they hit explosives, they scored at will. And we added things that we thought could help us be more efficient on early downs, but we weren't. That being said, once again, anytime the ball was in his hands, he won us the game.
Well said, gents. I kind of split the difference between you guys without really knowing your grades. I'm with respect my coach here. I gave him a B plus, and for very similar reasons. I kind of looked at it like, am I comparing him to quarterbacks around the league? What's the measuring stick here? And that's kind of what I looked at. I think he's an upper tier quarterback that obviously has a very high ceiling and still a lot of room for growth. I thought the early season struggles were a little bit frustrating, with the footwork and all of that. The weirdest thing, man, this Broncos season as a whole was just weird. Everything about it was really strange at times, but nothing was more weird than like J.K. Dobbins goes down, and he was like the MVP of the offense for the first half of the year. And all of a sudden, Bo Nix just flips the switch and turns it up. And it's like, man, that would have been just crazy to think, like, how the hell the offense would have looked if Bo Nix was playing like this and we had J.K. Dobbins. That was really strange. But again, I mean, you can't deny the fact that he just got the it factor, man. And just like you had said, every single opportunity that he's gotten to come back and had to lead the team, he has, which can also be very concerning. And I think it needs to be cleaned up a lot more next year, because you don't want to find yourself in situations where you have 8, 9 fourth quarter comebacks in a game, in a season, because you're not going to win all of them like you did this year too. So, but I love it. I think we're all in agreement that Bo Nix is the star. He is running the ship moving forward. And really, ultimately, that's all that matters. All right, let's go on to the running backs. There was a little bit of a discrepancy between the two of y'all. Jeremy, you had it as a B-, and Kodiak had it as a C+. I'll start with Kodiak. Kodiak,
Yeah,
what's your what's the reason that you gave it a C+ on the running backs?
So obviously, once again, I'm kind of just grading this as a composite thing. I'm grading this as if I'm, talking about the first half of the year and the second half of the year. First half of the year, I give JK like an A, because he was our offense. But second half of the year, man, terrible, just absolutely terrible. And I think they were part of the reason why we didn't have any run game. RJ Harvey, I thought he was good as a playmaker. I thought he was good in the red zone. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. That being said, it just wasn't all what you needed from your position. Okay, Tyler Bidet, holy cow, please get off my team. Please get off my team next year. Jaleel McLaughlin, once again, that's 3 straight years where he's just had his chance to establish himself as, a guy in our backfield. And he's just, he had a handful of nice games early on in his rookie year in 2023. But after that, not much. And then, Harvey, once again, good runner, good playmaker. But I think down, we just need a little bit more consistency from him if we're really going to take that leap next year. And I don't fault the running backs I don't fault the offensive line for the run game tanking, considering what it looked like when Dobbins was running behind these same 5 guys. So I do put a majority of the blame on the running backs. But once again, you can't discount Dobbins at the beginning of the year. You can't discount Harvey in the red zone, Harvey on as a receiver. But even Harvey as a receiver, he had 9 drops. So it was a very frustrating year. It was a very frustrating year from the running back position.
All right, Jeremy, tell us why you're a little more optimistic. I'll tell you this, man. For me, the difference between a C+ in school and a B- was massive. I was always the average student. I was fine with a C+, but if I got a B-, I was pumped. So even though it's not that big of a difference technically, it sounds like it is. So tell us why you graded the running backs at a B-.
Yeah, it's razor thin, but feels totally different, right? And of C+. Yeah. I'm gonna go B- just because J.K. Dobbins just saved his grade for me. Like, he was so much better than any of us thought he was going to be. Like, if you're going to have your MVP of the offense, like you guys said, for the first 10 weeks, be the running back, like, that's an A, maybe plus of like what we expected out of him. Now, the second half without him was horrible, right? The run game itself was bad. It didn't get nearly amount. Now, as much as we'll get into the offensive line and my grade for them later, it's still a good offensive line. So, like, if you have a good offensive line, you should be able to do more than you did, especially when J.K. Dobbins had the exact same offensive line and was doing a lot more. So that's the negative part. That's the A, and like the high A and like maybe a D. But I think what saves this is RJ Harvey's nose for the end zone. I mean, we would have been lost without that. Honestly, the thing that tipped the tide for me between a C+ and a B- was in overtime in that Bills game when Bo Nix checks it down to RJ Harvey and he shakes the defender who doesn't even get a finger on him, runs through 2 tackles, and then powers his way for 20 yards more than he should have gotten. And it set us up to win a playoff game for the first time in 10 years. Like, that's a max effort play that not getting from your wide receivers, and you got it from your running back. So for that kind of play alone, I gave him the benefit of the doubt and gave him a B-.
I love it, man. Yeah, I think RJ Harvey took way too much hate this year, dude. I thought he looked really good, and I felt like a lot of the lack of efficiency, like running the football, was simply because Sean Payton just did not want to commit to the run game, which was very frustrating. But I mean, I guess in some situations, understandable. I'm actually the lowest on this of all of you guys. I gave it a C-, and it wasn't a D+ because of my guy Adam Prentice. No, I'm just kidding. But I think for me, like, I look at it as an entire room, right? J.K. Dobbins was really good. Do I think he was A+ back? No, but I thought he was very, very solid. He was veteran. There was clearly a difference that he brought to the room, just from a vision standpoint, and how he would be patient, hit the holes. And then obviously the injury history, or the injury sucks. The injury history was another thing too, but just the fact that he got injured was unfortunate. But then after that, man, like, I look at it, aside from RJ Harvey, who I really felt like is a playmaker, it was a bunch of nothing, just complete scrubs in Jaleel and Bidet, like 2 guys that you could replace with basically anybody. Like, I felt like if we replaced Bidet for Deuce Vaughn and then we signed that Cody Schrader guy and we replaced him with Jaleel, it'd have been the exact same thing. It may be better because I don't know if it would have gotten worse. So it was just a whole bunch of nothing. They didn't really give too much. People, they forget that RJ play that you had referenced, Jeremy, and they also tend to forget that Jaleel had a terrible red zone fumble in that game that was called back because it was a defensive offsides, which we knew it was. But yeah, I mean, it was like not only did he not take advantage of any opportunities, but he, basically shit the bed and got lucky because of the defender jumping off. So it's like I look at it like you got two guys that are in the B range, one in the lower B range, one maybe a B plus, and then the other two are in the F category. So I just said let's split the difference and go with the C minus. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think one of the areas that we certainly need to upgrade this offseason. All right, go ahead.
I just want to point out it was very good overall for pass protection, which we kind of didn't mention. So I did bump that up as well.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, the pass protection was actually better than I expected it to be.
Yeah, surprisingly good. Especially RJ was pretty damn good. Like he took some steps up, and Bidet was out there and Prentice pancakes a couple guys. So that, yeah, I will say that was definitely a big improvement from the year before, where it's like if we didn't have Javonte, Bo Nix was getting killed. So, all right, let's get into the wide receivers. Jeremy, we'll start with you on the wide receivers. You had it as a C+. So you rated our running backs higher than the wide receivers. That's interesting there. Walk us through your mindset there.
Okay. In all caps, I have 4 words. Way too many drops. My God. It infuriated me. I couldn't, if you're paid millions of dollars to catch a football, let's go ahead and catch the football. Like, what do we do? Like, it just was so frustrating week in and week out. It never got fixed. There's a reason why the wide receivers coach got shown the door. And Sean Payton in a press conference, like, explained to everybody, like, where your fingers should be to catch a football. Like, we should probably, if we lose that Bills game, the 2 plays that you're going to go back and look at is Lil Jordan Humphrey dropping the most perfect touchdown throw I've ever seen, and Cortland Sutton dropping 2 on the first drive in overtime. Like, we just can't have it. So that was the main thing that dropped grades a lot. And here's the other thing. We had a lot of yak this year because we ran a lot of screens, but like organic yak is what I like look for in like a wide receiver. And that didn't exist. I think Pat Bryant is like really the only one who has the ability for that. But like, my goodness gracious, Cortland Sutton, it can't wait to go down after he catches a football. Like, he's looking for his first opportunity to fall down. And, Troy's not the biggest guy in the world, and Marvin's not the biggest guy in the world. Marvin might, if you can catch him running, he's going to get some yak. But like, actually, I kind of envision like the Brandon Marshall years where he's doing a spin move and pushing a guy off and stiff arming him and there's none of that. There's no playmaking. So that drops the grade a lot for me as well. I just feel like that was the one thing in the Bo grade that I factored in as well, is just the drops. Like, how much better would Bo and his numbers would have looked if their drops weren't there? It just was so massive to me. I had not seen a season like that before. So that was the biggest one for me.
Well said. You guys I'm really happy that you brought up the yak thing. We'll talk about it after Kodiak talks about him, but you guys are I think you'd be pretty surprised with who the leader of the team in yards after the catch is. But Kodiak, go ahead.
I mean, it's probably Sutton just based on pure volume, but we'll see. I don't know. You'll save it for your segment. Either way, I gave them a B minus. The reason I gave them a B minus was because, there were a lot of really, you're kind of like splitting hairs here. You're kind of like splitting hairs, like B minus, C plus, or whatever. And all right, so I'm thinking about what we expected from this receiver room. Sutton, to me, performed as expected. Like, he got over 1,000 yards again. But my biggest issue with him was when we needed him the most, he just didn't come through. Okay, we needed him against the Chiefs to secure the 1 seed, had 2 really bad drops in that game. I think he had 1 catch against the Chargers the week after. Against the Buffalo Bills, man, 2 drops in overtime. And once again, Jeremy said probably would have, looked at that had you lost. And then against the Patriots, bad drop, and that could have put you in field goal range. And, I know it wasn't Lutz's best day, but who knows if you can actually get to field goal range there. But just talking about the other guys, Mims, 3 straight years of just being underutilized. Like, after the Bills game, there's just no more excuses anymore. There just aren't. And once again, it's hard for me to, hold anything against him, the lack of production, especially because we traded up to get him. But once again, I think that I was kind of hard on Marvin Mims this year, and I realized that it's not him. It's not him. But Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin, these are two dudes I was really happy with. I was really happy with the progression of Troy Franklin this year. I think, you saw the first preseason game against the 49ers, and you were just like, ooh, that's a little different. And, they got up for Bo's best games, this whole receiving room, Bo's best games. I'm trying to think Cincinnati, Dallas, Green Bay, and Buffalo. I think those guys really got up for that game, even though we didn't have, what's it called? Bryant for Buffalo or whatever. And we lost Franklin pretty early on, I'm pretty sure.
Yep,
But
yep.
either way, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of weird. It was kind of a weird unit. Like we deployed a bunch of scrubs behind all these guys, like Lil Jordan, like Bandy, who fumbled the football, but had a nice touchdown catch against Green Bay. So that's cool or whatever. But yeah, I think I was a little more optimistic on the outlook because I think, our young guys showed a lot of really big promise, but ultimately just not good enough. Not good enough in key situations from the guys who you were trying to rely on, like Lil Jordan, yeah.
Yeah, I think I got it as a C- as well, I believe, or C+ on this one for the receivers as well. Yeah, I mean, you guys nailed it. I feel like we don't have that dominant wide receiver one, and it makes it really tough to have a really good room overall when you got just a bunch of guys that do things well, but they do different things well. Or you got a few of them that are kind of good at doing everything, but you don't have that dog. And I think that it's going to be another offseason of us trying to find that guy. But yeah, so crazy stuff about the yards after the catch. Anyone care to guess who the yards after the catch leader on the team is? I'll give you guys a hint. It's not a wide receiver.
RJ, yeah.
It is RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey's the
Yeah.
360 yards after the catch. The crazy thing about it is he actually had more yards after the catch than he did yards receiving. It's because he caught a lot of balls behind the line of scrimmage. Same thing goes for Bidet, who had 141 yards receiving and 200 yards after the catch. So outside of the running backs, who do you guys think had the most yards after the catch?
Oh god, it's gonna be like Adkins or something stupid.
I would guess Troy, but I don't know.
No, the answer is Evan Ingram.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
he probably got our entire season yak total on that one play in overtime against Washington.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, probably. So that kind of shows you a little bit about what you guys talked about with the yards after the catch. And Sutton was our leading receiver, and he was 6th on the team in yak.
What does that say?
So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Another thing, man, like Marvin Mims, it's frustrating because I feel like he is that guy that teams would actually fear. Defenses don't really fear anybody on this defense, understandably. He proved that you can. He had half the amount of receiving yards he had the entire year in those 2 postseason games. I don't know what that'll mean for next year for him. I hope they obviously just learn to start using him more. But overall, on paper, they did pretty good. I mean, almost 4,000 yards in total. But it is what it is. Oh, man, look at this.
Holy cow.
Our guy. Biggest super chat, I think, in horsepower hour history.
I believe so.
With $20. Is that our guy, Dak?
Yeah,
it is, right?
It's Fanatic Dak, right? Or no, yeah.
Yeah, that is Dak. My guy. Yeah. Let's lock in for this offseason. Go Broncos. Let's push the chips in. Yes, 100%, my guy. Appreciate you so much, man. We will push the chips in. Hopefully, we'll put that $20 on Super Bowl, and we'll return you a couple $100 more in advance. But thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you, man. All you do, guys, go check him out. He's got awesome content on Twitter. He's blowing it up on Twitter, doing a great job. And I'm gonna make sure I get the Twitter handle right at least for Dak, so I can shout you out here. It's the same thing as you see here. So it's at Denver D Mark on Twitter, on the YouTube. He's getting great stuff. He's on Orange and Blue Network, Buckham Pod, Broncos Bros. He is the ultimate Bronco fan, man. So go show him some love. Appreciate you, man. That's very, very kind of you. We appreciate that. Definitely. And any other questions you have in the chat, just put them in there. We'll make sure we address them. We'll get to them. All right. So let's get to the oh my God, Kodiak. I'm so happy that I'm starting with you today. This is your favorite position on the team for sure. And that's tight ends, which you ranked a wonderful F.
Wait, yes. Just had to make sure. I said F. I thought I put F- initially. I guess not.
You might have. We can change it to F-.
Yeah. All right. First of all, tight ends, terrible, man. 2 straight years of us just getting nothing from the tight end position. Okay. You made a big deal about going out and getting Evan Ingram. And once again, I think, Trent Sherfield, I know that he was just terrible with us, but he tonight had talked about how he was deployed in a different way that the Broncos had kind of pitched to him. Maybe that was the case with Evan Ingram too. But you know what? I don't believe that Evan Ingram is just magically washed or whatever. I just don't believe it. Okay. But then you look at the other guys, all right, and you look at Ab Troutman. Our first pass of the season went to Lucas Kroll. I'm like, why are we throwing to Lucas Kroll on the first play of the year? I know that's a one-play sample size, but still, a guy who I thought was honestly going to be cut until he got that wide open touchdown against the 49ers in the preseason. And then, yeah, just all these other guys, like, it's just terrible, man. We're getting nothing from the tight end position. You're not getting guys that can block. You're not getting guys that can catch. You're not getting guys that can run routes. So if you can't block, you can't catch, you can't run routes, what good are you for at the tight end position, man? I'm all for gutting it to the ground, okay? Last offseason, I said that we needed to burn this running back room to the ground. And I guess they kept Bidet and Jalil, which whatever, but they added two. And honestly, it still wasn't enough. This year, I think I want every tight end gone. I think Evan Ingram, maybe you could stay, but even then, I'd probably lean towards like not keeping him around. What else? I think you got to do what Green Bay did a handful of years ago, where you draft Kraft and Musgrave, because even though Musgrave hasn't really been much in the NFL, Kraft was a home run hit. And then you got to bring in some in the UDFA pool. You got to bring in a bunch, and you just got to completely revamp that position. Let's add some competition, okay? You didn't add any quality competition last offseason, so that just told me, like, okay, Nate Adkins, you're safe. Okay, you can vape your root beer vapes and do whatever and just be a prick in public and whatever. And Adam Troutman, man, you had to have him here to sell the culture, but my God, oh my goodness. Sean Payton said it himself. Okay, Adam Troutman averages 5 catches a year or whatever. When he needed 5 catches to reach those incentives against the Chargers, Sean Payton's like, guys, I told him I love him, but that's what he gets in a single year. So, yeah, let's get some tight ends. Our tight ends can't block. They were a big part of why the run game struggled. They suck at pretty much everything. So, why are you deploying tight ends who suck at everything in your offense?
Yep. Well said. I don't think there's much else to say in terms of the F grade. But Jeremy came through and again, one of those that sound a lot better than, he didn't fully fail, but they got what'd you give him, a D minus?
Well, I had a feeling
pushed it up to the D minus category.
You want to know what pushed it up? That one, we already mentioned it, that one run in the Washington game that in overtime when actually Evan Ingram made a couple of plays out of nothing there's a reason why he got yacked. So there were a couple flashes from Evan Ingram, which was nice to see.
Oh yeah. Philly. Yeah. Yeah.
There was no issues with the tight ends as far as like off the field, dumb penalties, stuff like that. It was just more of like, they weren't very good. Right. So like, I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I was a nice grader, and I also didn't want them to get 3 Fs in a row. I figured the other 2 were going to be Fs for sure. So, Evan Ingram was overall a disappointment, I think, from what we all expected, but he did occasionally flash. So that's what just brought him up to a D plus or D minus. So that's it.
Yep. I think I'm just gonna leave it at what Kodiak said. I thought this was an absolute trash tight end room. I feel like the tight ends as a whole need to be revamped from the ground up. I put that in my offseason, my free agency kind of blueprint video of what I really want to see happen. And it was a lot of like getting guys, like, you want blocking tight ends. There's a few that you can go out there and actually sign that are actually good at blocking. And then, Kate Otten, I know Andy had talked about it in the chat. I'm all for bringing somebody like Kate Otten that can stretch the field a little bit, and also addressing it in the draft as well with some of these mid-round picks of some guys that I like. And Kenyon Sadiq, I don't think he'll be there at 30, but we can have that conversation separately as well. So the tight end room has been abysmal in every way. And I think it's an F for me strictly because you got guys that are supposed to do something well. Like, the bare minimum is that you can block, and they can't even do that well. So that was certainly frustrating. All right, the final group we have is A minus. There's a little bit more continuity here. We got Jeremy gave him a B. So talk us through why you give him a B and not an A.
Overrated, I would say. I just felt like PFF, like, oh my gosh, they've never seen a better offensive line apparently than our offensive line. And I think it's because they don't want to give Bo credit personally. But they think that our offensive line was unbeatable, but that was just not the case. Okay, if you break it down, Garrett Bowles, legit great. This was a great season from Garrett Bowles. He was fantastic. He deserves credit. Miners, I felt regressed this season. I don't know if his powers was in his dreadlocks or what, but like Samson, but I felt like he took a little bit of a step back, which was unfortunate. Powers, same deal. I felt he didn't have a great year, and then the injury. McGlinchey was solid, but definitely up and down. There were some times if there was like somebody screaming around the corner and Bo had to get out of there quick, it was probably coming from McGlinchey's side. Wattenberg was also up and down, dealt with injury. I will say Palcho was a great, good in relief, and Forsyth did a good job in relief as well. But not enough in the run game. Like if you have this A graded offensive line, people should still be able to run the ball. But Bidet, Jaleel, and RJ Harvey couldn't do it. Like that tells me that offensive line's not as good as the grades tend to say they are. And like I said, with the Bo Nix grade, he covered up a lot of sins with them. This is basically the same offensive line for the most part that the quarterback before Bo will go unnameless, but like he had so many sacks that season and Bo has like no sacks, and they just equate it to the offensive line a lot of time. And it's like, no, it's the same. It's like one guy just doesn't take sacks, which makes the offensive line look better and gets rid of the ball and is on time. So like, I just think they got more credit than they deserved a little bit.
Good points. Kodiak, you got him as an A-.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with a lot of your points, but my grade I just felt like a lot of the games this year they did hold up and they did play very well. And overall, I did feel like this was a pretty good unit. In the first however many weeks of the year, we were a top 5 rushing attack, and the fact that it was mostly unchanged tells me that it was more the guys behind J.K. Dobbins who couldn't get it done rather than our offensive line who just couldn't get it done. Maybe they just enjoyed blocking for JK more. Maybe they just had more faith in him. I'm not entirely sure. But one thing I do really want to applaud our offensive line for is I felt like they got up for a lot of our biggest games this year. I thought they played pretty well against KC in the first one. I thought they played very well against Green Bay. I thought they were up for the challenge against Micah Parsons, even though he had that, forced fumble on RJ. But yeah, no, you mentioned that there were some issues. Quinn Miners, I don't care if Quinn Miners had the best right guard season of all time. Against the Patriots, you can't have a performance like that. Unacceptable, inexcusable from your all-pro guard. Okay. Garrett Bowles, fantastic. I thought Wattenberg, was up and down early on, but I felt like back half of the year, he really put it in. And a reason why I was, I think I really was, I wouldn't say generous with my grade, but the way I graded them the way they did was because whenever you had to have somebody step in, they barely missed a beat. And honestly, you did see Forsyth's, you know, what do you call it? Forsyth's, how do you put this? Weaknesses a little bit more in week 18 against the Chargers, but man, against the Chiefs, against Chris Jones, I thought he was more than up for the task. I thought against the Buffalo Bills, they were also more than up for the task. But yeah, no, I think Bo Nix did cover a lot of holes on this team because when we were in pure dropback situations, man, they were able to get after him. Washington, I feel like that was one where I was just like, dang, where's all this pressure coming from? And overall, yeah, I just think it was a little disappointing at times. Throughout the year, but I still think it was a good unit. I still think they overall had a good season. Now, once again, can't have that level of play in the AFC Championship game, regardless of who the quarterback is. But offensive line depth doesn't exist in the NFL, and I thought, man, Mustafa Palczewski coming in, I thought that was a huge testament to not only our coaches but the guys around him.
Yeah, no, it's a tough. I mean, this one's always I go back and forth with because I think we have a really good unit overall. I like our O-line a lot, and obviously it's never going to be perfect. I think for me, I gave him a B+. The reason is because I feel like when we went up against teams that had a really dominant O-line or a D-line, for the most part, we played really, really well against them. I don't really look at the Pats game so much as being like a fair grade in a sense. But you got a backup quarterback. The checks are different. Luke Wattenberg is just coming back. He was your center. So there was a little bit of things there. I mean, yeah, they obviously could have played better. And I think Bo would have covered a lot of it up, not just with his legs, but being able to kind of, keep the cadence to where it was and all the continuity. But I feel like from a tackle standpoint, I thought McGlinchey played really well this year. I feel like he's gotten better every year he's been here. When we first signed him, he wasn't very good. Last year was a little bit better. This year I thought he was really good. Garrett Bowles, I felt like, is an all-pro. The left guard spot, it's like Ben Power started the season off really good, but then you didn't really see a big fall off with Palcho. So it could be a good or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. And Quinn Miners, I think overall is a stud. I still think he's one of the best guards in football. And then Luke Wattenberg, you kind of just like have to deal with Luke Wattenberg. I mean, I feel like he's fine. He's an ascending player. He got that big extension. But somebody had said it earlier. They said, I felt like the inside of the interior offensive line was a little bit disappointing. I would say at times it felt that way. And it doesn't mean that we can't get better, but it was mainly in the run game. Like I felt like we're a really good pass protecting unit. Yes, Bo had a lot to do with that as well, but there's also a lot of times earlier in the year where there's a beautiful pocket and Bo would kind of escape from it, or he had like a little bit of happy feet, and then he kind of calmed down, and got a lot better in that regards towards the end of the year. So overall, I mean, I love the offensive line. I think that we could still upgrade at the left guard position, but I think it's definitely a very, very good unit overall, and something that we can continue to lean on moving forward. But wouldn't mind it if it was a place that we addressed in the draft just for future stuff, because the tackles, man, are playing really good right now, but they're also getting up there in age. So I get a little bit worried there.
One more thing about Quinn Miners real quick.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that Quinn Miners was like buying himself like watches and like wearing suits and stuff, I was like, uh-oh, because I want Quinn Miners to be the guy with his belly out with the dreads going and like hadn't showered in like a week, maybe. You know what I mean? I want him to be that dude who's just like that guy that we saw in the draft video of him like picking up like old like kegs and stuff and carrying them, over a mountain. It's kind of reminds me of like basketball. It's like when like the big centers want to dribble down and, they want to shoot threes or something. You're like, no, dude, be you, be who you are. And so I hope he take like it's all good. Like you're making a lot of money and you deserve all that stuff. But man, like on the football field, be Quinn Miners, be the guy that broke into the league.
Yep. Yeah, no, he definitely took a step back. I know he had like a really weird illness for a big part of the year too. And I don't know how that
Remember,
and I don't know how that like continued to, if it affected him the rest of the year. He didn't really seem like himself at times for sure, like he usually is. But TW 4313, man, he brings up a good point here with Keelan Rutledge. It was funny. I was hearing a lot about this kid. He's from Georgia Tech, and I don't really know anything about him in terms of like if he's the guy that works out in the tires and like tows the trucks and stuff like Quinn Miners used to do. But this dude is nasty. Like if you want, he looks like a nasty dude. If you want somebody on your O-line that can run block, he looks like a really good second, third round guy. So I'm all for that. I love it. I think he looks really good. And Georgia Tech likes to run the football. So you already know that at least he's going to be good there. So really good pull there. I love it. I love it. All right. So you guys want to get into Jeremy, your segment of
sure.
Giddy Up or Hold Your Horses? Let's do it.
I did 4 questions. So 2 questions for each of you guys. I'll start with Mark here. And for people that don't know the segment, I'm going to say a statement, and the guys are going to either respond with a giddy up, they agree with it, or a hold your horses, they disagree with it. Okay, so just to get that clear. So Mark, this one's for you. There will be a noticeable difference on the defense with the absence of Jim Leonard.
Ooh. I'd say hold your horses on that. Just because, obviously it depends on who they bring in, but it's still the same system under Vance. And, it's weird because he was the secondary coach, but we fired our cornerbacks coach, right? So I don't know if there was disconnect there. That was a little bit strange. I don't think you're gonna notice too much of a difference, to be honest with you. I mean, you got a lot of good vets too, some guys that can really continue to learn the system to get better. Communication's only going to get better. So from overall, I mean, if you look at the kind of talent that we have on the secondary, you could make the argument that it was maybe more disappointing than it was not, in a sense of like there was a lot of really annoying penalties. Obviously, we know about Riley Moss, but across the board, there was just some bad penalties, some bad technique. The lack of turnovers was definitely a little bit of a concern. So no, I don't think so. I don't think you're going to see much of a change for the worse with Jim Leonhard being out.
Okay, I tend to agree, but time will tell.
Mhm.
All right, Kodiak. The Sean Payton Bo Nix drama this week was not blown out of proportion at all.
Hold your horses. Like, I know me and Marky, we did a live stream where we talked about it, and you know what? We said I think whatever I was thinking, it's like a husband and a wife. It's like a reality TV show where a lot of it just seems, like they're, gripping at each other or whatever. But at the end of the day, head hits the pillow, they're gonna do their business, they're gonna say I love you, and they're gonna move on with their lives. And ultimately that's what's gonna happen. We know how Sean Payton and Bo Nix can both be. These dudes are both ultra competitive. And yeah, I remember there's just been so much stuff out there. It's the main thing that I think has been blowing it out of proportion is the salty Vikings or the Falcons fans that are just like, oh look, I told you Sean Payton was a complete dickhead. And I'm just like, dude, you're just grasping at straws because he beat your team so many times, and you are clinging to a manufactured scandal with no evidence. So yeah, but yeah, no, it was bigger than it had to be.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I wanted to talk about it too because it was just like DNVR did a good job of explaining like how it wasn't even a thing, because when Mike Kliss asked Bo Nix, like, what did he think when Sean Payton's mentioning that he had 3 surgeries, and Bo Nix is like hearing this for the first time and then having to react to that. And then you go back and listen to what Sean Payton said, and he never mentioned a certain amount of surgeries. So it's like the whole thing was made up from like, and then when Bo's like, he shouldn't be talking about how many surgeries I've had, he didn't. Like that's the whole point. So it
Mhm.
probably took one phone call from Sean to Bo Nix being like, yeah, I didn't say that. And then Bo was like, oh, they said he did. I didn't know, and that would have been over with. It's like, it's when two people like make up and then everybody else is talking about like, did you see what happened the last couple times? It's like, it's over. It's already over. So I thought that was so dumb. And like, come on, dude. If you're a journalist in this, supposedly, like, you should not be doing that kind of stuff. So many journalists are that little kid who will never get into a fight, but constantly is like, did you hear what this guy said about your mom? And this, it's just like, knock it off. Like, just cover the team, dude. Like, we don't need you to be like,
It's like that
instigating
JMO
stuff.
guy in the chat. That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah. Dude, he's pulling the mic closer out right now.
One more thing I have to say about that is how are these guys given a platform, but me and Mark are not allowed to attend press conferences? I
Yeah.
wouldn't ask those stupid ass questions. That's a stupid ass question to ask Bo Nix.
Yeah. I know. It is.
Yeah,
It's pretty embarrassing.
It's, dude, I'm telling you, I've worked for a television station for 20 years. It all comes back to like narcissism and ego. Like, oh, I asked him the question that got this. DMAC does it all the time. Oh, I was the one that got this response. And it's like, you're serving yourself. You're not serving the audience with that kind of crap. I don't like it. So, yeah, that was ridiculous. Okay, let's go. I got another similar question for Mark here. As far as silliness, the George Payton Minnesota Vikings speculation is 100% BS.
Oh, I didn't really give it too much thought, to be honest, because I know he's under contract for one more year. So I think it's BS. I don't know why he would want to necessarily go back. I mean, he's in a wonderful position right now. He's loved by everybody in the state, when a couple years ago he couldn't say that. If him and Sean's relationship is as good as he claims that it is, then it's 100% BS. And maybe it's his agent saying that to get a extension for his client. But I mean, who knows? If if there is maybe a little bit of tension behind the scenes or something, then maybe he will end up going. But I would be shocked if that happened this year.
Yeah, I thought that was so silly. I think contract time, all of a sudden you're getting some reports from certain
Yeah,
people
so
that are
random.
close to certain people. It's just like,
Like, if you
what
want
are
to
we
trade
doing?
for him, that's fine.
I know.
I don't know who would negotiate that trade though. That would be kind of weird. Like
Yeah.
the GM is negotiating a trade for himself. He's like, I'm worth a first round pick. You want to send it?
Yeah,
But then again, I
he's
don't want to leave. So
bidding against himself. Yeah.
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 Hey, can you send me a first round pick that the new team I'm going to go with will now have to be without for this upcoming
exactly.
draft?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that would be the most ironic trade in NFL history, I think.
I'm seeing a lot of like anti Sean Payton stuff in the chat, which is not new. We've had that all year.
Yeah.
But like, I get not liking a person's personality, or maybe like something happened in the past for your team against the Saints or something. But like, if you 100% just are fair looking at somebody coming to a football team and like turning it around, like, how can you possibly like, I don't know how much better of a job a person could do. Like, it's insanity. So I see a lot of that.
No, I know. I feel like for me, man, I mean, you see a lot of examples of it just like in the world, you know, but it's one of those things where the people that are really against Sean Payton are like, I hate Sean Payton, or he's an asshole, blah, blah, blah. I genuinely believe that there's no way that they actually listen to a lot of Sean Payton pressers to think that. Because if they did, they would be like, no, he's actually pretty fair. I mean, he'll have a little bit of spiffs like very, very randomly, but it's in the grand scheme of things, in the 3 years that he's been here, like 97% of the time, he's been really intuitive and giving you a lot of, saying great question and answers the questions like in full detail, probably sometimes in more detail than you want. So I really don't get it. I don't know why he rubs people the wrong way. But yeah, it's strange. It's just like, again, one of those things where you hear a couple clips and all of a sudden you think that that's who he is. And it's like, he's absolutely nothing like that. So,
right. And I'll say, Raymond Rojas in the chat saying, bro, he called a 4th and 1 with a chance to go to the Super Bowl and blew it. Come on, wake up. Yeah, he's not perfect. And here's the thing. He has to give his backup quarterback like confidence. If he goes out there and says I am on record saying you definitely should have kicked it. But that being said, like, I understand the thought process. You get that touchdown there, you probably are in the Super Bowl because of that one play. I didn't like the play call, and I didn't like, obviously, but if it goes the other way, there's been so many times where he's gone for it and it worked out and we were all like, that was genius. So I'll ask you this. How many head coaches in the NFL even had the opportunity to call a 4th and 1 in a conference championship game? 4 of them, and he's one of them. So like, what are we saying? So that would be my main thing with that.
Yeah, and this whole thing of like him and Bo are not even going to work out next year. Come on, like it's like based off of what, dude? Because all they've done together is get better in the 2 years that he's been there. I mean, they win 10 games and then they win 14 games, and all Sean Payton did at the beginning of the year, which Bo didn't like, was talking about how great he is and how good this team is and that they could reach a Super Bowl, and he's always his hype man. In fact, his biggest weakness, I would say, as a coach, or his biggest flaw since in the last 2 years, is the fact that he almost likes Bo Nix too much, because he doesn't want to run the ball, because he wants to be able to, it seems like he wants to stat pad and do things for Bo. So Bo might get annoyed with some of the things because Sean asks of him to do that, and Bo Nix is the kind of person that'll speak up, which I think is a really good and a very healthy relationship. But to say that they're not going to work out is crazy. Like their relationship is among the best quarterback and head coach duo in the league, and you don't have to take my word for it. You can just look at the records, right? I mean, just like you said earlier, Bo Nix, no quarterbacks won as many games in his first 2 seasons as him, and Sean Payton loves the dude. He absolutely loves him a lot, and it's very obvious. And if you can't see that, then I don't, you might not even be Stevie Wonder. You might be Helen Keller, because I don't think you could see or hear anything if that's the case, to be honest with you. So,
yeah, I mean, when you get 2 ultra competitors together, there's going to be bumping of heads and like, no, I saw this. That's always going to happen. But like, there's no doubt in my mind Sean Payton absolutely loves Bo Nix. He has said it to every single person who will listen for the last 2 years. He's saying we should go to the Super Bowl. We had the team to go to the Super Bowl before the season even started and then backed it up. So like that's crazy. And Bo Nix, if you know anything about him on the field, he is 100% as competitive, if not more than Sean Payton is. But like his personality off the field is very measured and methodical and puts all the work in. So I think it's a match made in heaven. Just because there's a little bit of squabble here and there, like that's healthy. I mean, anybody who's had a passionate relationship of any sort knows that those things are going to happen.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to like find the right style that doesn't block your face. You
Oh,
said
it's
it right. And,
It's
and
not-
Aaron Taylor, thank you for bringing a little bit of sanity to the chat with this comment. Are we hating on a head coach that lost the AFC Championship game by 3 points, down his starting quarterback, starting running back, and 2 starting receivers? Exactly my point, sir. You said it well.
Are we hating on a head coach who completely rebuilt a team that was missing 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and oh, by the way, remind me, who was our highest player on our team this year? Remind me.
Russell
Remind me.
Wilson.
Or actually, who was our highest paid player that we were paying to back up Jackson Dart to the point where his coach was going to go into the blue tent because he didn't want to see his horrible play on the field? Like,
Yep.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
this was the best
exactly.
rebuild in NFL history. Make no mistake about it. It was the best one. Like, I know there's been other really, really good rebuilds in sports, but what you were up against versus what you did, there's, in my opinion, actually best rebuild in professional sports.
Yep. Totally
JMO
agree.
saying they are going to have a fight on the sideline next year's. Mark my words. Remember, I said this.
Okay.
That'd be fine with me, dog.
Guess
Because
what?
what I remember is when they did have that sideline fight last year, in his rookie season, what happened, Jeremy? What happened after that?
They crush it.
Yeah, all they did was started winning games, right? It's kind of
Yep.
wild how that happens.
And here's the thing. How many examples do you need of a coach and a quarterback like legitimately disliking each other, but still having tremendous success? Like for the Pats fans that are out there, do you think Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are like hanging out after work? Absolutely not. Like,
No,
but
they couldn't stand each other.
it worked for so long until it finally did it. But like, would you go back and be like, oh, I think this is not a great match? Of course,
Yeah.
no. They're gonna go down in history as maybe the best. So,
Dude,
So-
according to like what you saw just reports wise from the Eagles last year when they won the Super Bowl, no locker room hated each other more. Like everybody apparently hated each other. Nobody got along, and all they did was demolish the Chiefs and win a Super Bowl. So it's all these are grown men, guys. Like it's all good. You're gonna have a little bit of issues. It might be a new thing for a lot of like the new generation. It makes me sound really old saying that, but like. That's how people work things out. Normal people. We don't tweet or text about it. We just talk it out. Or we yell at each other sometimes. It's all good. It's good for your soul. I can tell you that.
and the last play of Sean Payton and Bo Nix, like he's literally going up to chest bump him to like the fact that we're just about to do a walk-off field goal to beat the Bills. Like, what are we saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So,
Yeah.
all right, I got one more for Kodiak here. The Denver Broncos are one good draft and free agent class away from being Super Bowl favorites.
Man, there are so many good teams in the league right now. Can I hold my up? Is that
Sure.
is that something I could do?
You want to do
Like,
half?
I don't know.
half?
If you're just looking at this, I'm not taking it like face value, like betting odds or anything like that. I'm not gonna like get into all that, but yeah, there's just so many good teams right now. I'm gonna give kind of a boring press conference answer. There's just so many good teams right now that it's so hard. Even if you crush free agency, even if you crush the draft, it's gonna be really, really hard to get to where you were this past year. That's just the reality of the NFL.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I would love for them to crush free agency. I would love for them to crush the draft. I would love the horrible parts of this team to get worked out, but everything's in place. I mean, everything's in place. You have your quarterback. Honestly, the only thing you really, really need to go all out and adding is some linebackers and some skill position dudes. And once again, easier said than done, but hey, man, we'll get it. We'll be aggressive this offseason.
And it's a trick question because Las Vegas will never make the Denver Broncos the Super Bowl favorites. No matter.
You guys
who
know
they
where
have
we
in
are
the
now for the next year's Super Bowl? Where we rank? Odds-wise?
sixth, maybe. I don't know, somewhere around there.
8th, 9th.
12th.
Oh, damn.
They have the
With
Niners
everybody
as
pretty
a
much
higher
returning.
chance, and they got the Chiefs, the Lions, the Chargers. Yeah, it's Vegas don't love us, but hey, I like it better that way, anyways.
Definitely. Okay, I had one bonus question for each of you. It's real quick. Or either one can answer. Davis Webb will be a head coach before Vance Joseph.
Well, look at this. I saved this question from Eli Betts. How long before Davis Webb is a head coach? I started. We got to get our guy Eli some love here. So you said before Vance Joseph?
Yeah. Who's the head coach first? It could be a tie. It could be
Oh,
both. Or it could be neither.
I think Davis Webb probably, man, because the league is shifting to, they really like teams really want that next up and coming young coach that brings like fresh ideas. And offensive minded coaches will always have an advantage over defense, it seems like, because it's totally an offensive league. I mean, you kind of look at the landscape and how it works for the most part. It wasn't as much this year, but still like pretty much always focused on the offensive side of the ball. So, I mean, dude, it's crazy because, I mean, Davis Webb, even without being an OC and without ever calling plays, has been getting head coaching interviews for 2 years now. So if he has a lot of success this year, I can almost assure that he will be a head coach next year, where you can't necessarily say that with VJ because not only is he not necessarily wanted as much, I don't think it has to do with that, but the fact that VJ has had head coaching experience, I think helps him in some situations, but it also hurts him in a lot too. So because, there's a lot of politics and PR and stuff, and selling the young, hot coordinator is always going to be easier sell than a little bit more of a boring hire.
I totally agree.
Like
Kodiak,
we all
do
were
you have any
fired up
thoughts?
for Josh McDaniels because he was like the new brain truck guy and came from New England, and it didn't work out, but it was easier to sell than John Fox, right?
Yeah, no. I'm with Mark 100%. Like, once again, I think I'd be more surprised if Davis Webb wasn't a head coach for the next year or two. And once again, I can't really say the same about Joseph just because, he's a been there, done that guy. And, unfortunately, he just didn't have a lot of success as a head coach. Now, whether that's on him or whether that's on somebody else, I don't think teams really care about that. I think they just look at the results and they're just like, all right, this is what you did. And he rebuilt a completely broken unit. So I think, on our defensive side of the ball. So I think, you got to give him a lot of credit there. But yeah, once again, it's just an offensive league, and this is just what young hot coordinators do. They just get hired away. And the been there, done that defensive coordinator is not necessarily always the most exciting guy.
There's nothing more enticing than a mystery young offensive mind guru guy. Because if human nature tells you anything, you could be like, hey, do you want this $100 bill or what's in the box? And everyone will always be like, ooh, what's in the box? And it might not be anything. But it's like people feel like they know what Vance Joseph is, what they're going to get with Vance Joseph. And that is a good football coach, obviously knows schemes and all that kind of stuff, but failed the first time, right? So Davis Webb, but here's what people don't factor in enough, I think, is when you're picking that young offensive mind, Sean Payton is the offensive designer and mind and all that. But what makes Sean Payton such a great coach is the fact that he understands how to motivate his players, how to get all the nuances of when do we travel? When do we do this? There's so how do we practice? How do we do all these things? I think Bill Parcells, having him knowing that in the back of his mind is such the reason why he's an incredible coach. If you look at Mike McDaniels or whatever, he is an amazing offensive mind, but why did he fail? Because he probably didn't know how to push the right buttons when and where. And the ownership might not be the right place or whatever. So that would be the one thing I have as a caveat, when you just want to get the young offensive mind. We did that with Josh McDaniels, right? Josh McDaniels has been with Bill Belichick and he's a genius and all this stuff. And then we get him in here and then he tries to be Bill Belichick and everyone's like, this guy is a freaking a-hole and we hate this guy and he's cheating and doing all God knows what, right? It just doesn't work. It's a fine line between just being a smart football coach and being a really successful head coach who oversees everything. And I kind of just feel like VJ might be a really, really good defensive coordinator. And you should be happy with that. I mean, Wade Phillips, Vic Fangio, that's who those guys are. And they should be able to coach forever that way. I think sometimes when you promote yourself to the head job because it's more prestigious and it's more this, like if you don't get the exact right situation, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I think Webb was smart enough to be like, I don't know if I want to be go into the Raiders organization right now. So it's pretty interesting. But I think Webb will definitely get the chance first, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Mark, would you do me a favor and highlight this comment by Martin and Zadaluda real quick? The second most recent one. If VJ doesn't get picked up in the next couple of years, do you think he should go to college and make a name for himself there? I mean, I personally don't. I mean, I feel like if you're an NFL coach, I don't know why you'd want to go to college. Okay. First of all, college football and coaching the NFL is like apples to oranges. College football is a lot more like politician, NIL in this modern era. How can I develop relationships? How can I sell these 17-year-old kids, 18-year-old kids and their parents on what I'm pitching out there? And, the NFL is just more like X's and O's, just straightforward. And, college, you play more of the CEO game. Like there's not really many college head coaches that, actually call their side of the ball anymore. Like they're pretty much just the CEO level coaches. And I think I feel like, I'm not really, really well versed in this, but I feel like college and head coach responsibilities are like in the NFL are like apples to oranges. Like they're about as different as you can get.
And college used to have the opportunity, like in Alabama, you could just recruit the crap out of it for years and be a juggernaut forever. Now with NIL, it's like there's way more ups and downs, and just being a good football coach doesn't guarantee success.
Absolutely. Well, there's a question I wanted to get to real quick. I know we're well over the hour mark, but I highlighted it. It's from D Houston 25. Thought it was a good question. He said, "How does Jade Barron fit into next year's plan?" You guys got any thoughts on that?
Jeremy, you want to start? I got to think a little bit.
I would just say, like, I think he definitely factors into it. Vance doesn't like to play rookies. And Jade having a year under his belt will help. But the really biggest factor will be if they retain Jaquan McMillan. Let's be honest. Like, Jaquan McMillan might have been the best defensive player like the last few games of the season. Like, he was unbelievable. So, like, you're not going to want to if you retain him, you're not going to want to take him off. But I just think, like, Jade can play multiple positions. So, and he's too talented of a guy to, like, keep off the field. And now that he's got that year, his rookie year out of the way, I think I could definitely see him being a big part of it. But I mean, it's just, we have a great secondary, and that's just unfortunate for him, but also fortunate for him. So that's what it comes down
to. Man, I've been like a metronome on Barron to begin with. I've been like a Rubik's Cube. I've been on all sides of every discussion with Barron ever since we lost the AFC Championship, and we've been heading to the offseason. I've been like, he was a wasted pick. We should have taken a running back. Then I've been like, you know what? He was a smart pick. Teams, they got to keep their cupboards stocked just because you don't want what happened with Levi Wallace to happen again. Man, I don't know. I've just been looking at this from all angles. I think he does have to find his way onto the field. That's just what he has to do. If you spent your first-round pick on a depth corner, you're just admitting to yourselves and you're admitting to your fans that you've kind of just failed as a front office, especially because the way you pitched it to your fans was, we couldn't pass on this guy. How could we have passed on this guy? He was so high on our board. And, for better or for worse, I think their vision for him was a little wonky, but it doesn't change the fact that they made a pick. It doesn't change the fact that they did it. And unfortunately, there is going to be a time where you're going to have to take resources from the defensive side of the ball. I think he is going to be on the field next year. I just don't know if it's going to be in Moss's spot. I don't know if it's going to be in Brandon Jones' spot.
Yeah. I go on to, so I look at it like this. I think that there's what I think should happen and what I think will ultimately happen. What I would like to see happen, and Darian nailed it, is I think that we need to look at formulating a trade for Riley Moss. I just think it makes a lot of sense. And it might hurt some people's feelings. I know Jeremy loves him. I mean, obviously Kodiak's got his jersey in the background there.
Oh yeah.
So it's not really so much about like this is a hit on Moss. It's just, yes, he's going to be undrafted free agent after this year. I don't think anybody thinks that we're actually realistically going to sign him at that particular point. And his stock is never going to be higher than it is now. So I think you got to look at putting him out on the trade market, getting what you can for him. Third, maybe fourth round pick, I think is very feasible. And then you have the perfect opportunity for Jahdae Barron to go there, become the starter. You still got Chris Abrams-Drain, who's a really good depth guy. No way in hell you can let Jaquan McMillan go anywhere. So you got to be able to continue retaining him and paying him and taking advantage of the rookie contract. But in addition to that too, man, like I think that he could potentially raise the ceiling of that room. Like, could we take a step back? Yeah, that's the risk you're always going to take. But one thing about Riley is like he was good, but he wasn't a playmaker. And my example is like I would always rather take the player that would get burnt a few times, but that'll come back and get you in the big moments. Like Jaquan McMillan is the epitome of that. He gets burnt all the time, but man, does he make big plays in big moments. I mean, you talk about the last few years, just the plays he's made. It's crazy. You can't really say the same thing about Riley Moss. So give Jahdae Barron the opportunity to. I don't think you're really taking a step back in any category. I mean, I think cover skills, he's just as talented. Can be obviously more. We haven't seen enough to say one way or the other. He's very good in the run game. He's a very good tackler. So I think you got to look at doing that. That would be what makes sense. I think what ultimately happens is I do think that Riley Moss will eventually get traded, but I don't think it'll be before the draft. I think they'll probably go into camp with like an open competition. And then if they feel confident that Jahdae Barron's really taking those steps, then they'll look at making like a training camp like before the season type of trade. So we can get the pick for next year, but we'll see. We'll see. Either way, I think that's a good problem for the Broncos to have. But it would be nice to have another mid-round pick in this year's draft, man, because I think that's really where the guts of the draft is. So,
yeah, to me, it's like I love Moss, and he's homegrown, and if there's a position group that you want a spoil of riches on, it's probably cornerback, especially if BJ's still going to run the defense and all that kind of stuff. So I would understand it if it happened. I just personally wouldn't want that to happen, but I would understand it.
Yeah, it's like JFM. It's like JFM. Like nobody wants him to go, but we all know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You can't pay everybody, right? Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And like, and you're just going to lose JFM, right? Which, like I said, we all expected. And I don't think anybody was like trade him last year because we didn't feel as confident with the depth as we do now. But in this situation, it's like, man, it just makes sense. Like it ticks off every one of the boxes of like something that makes sense. And there's a ton of teams. I was doing some mock drafts and I was going through like team by team. And I was looking at the Dolphins, and I knew the Dolphins were ass and they had like a really shitty defense. But, dude, they need like 3 corners, and this is a really good cornerback draft, but one's not going to be enough for them. So, like, them trading for somebody like Riley Moss that could be a starter makes a lot of sense, and then adding in the draft. And I think that there's a lot of teams that are like that too. So, I think that finding a suitor for him will not be very difficult. I think he'll actually garner a lot of interest if you ask me.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I remember leading up to draft season, I remember the number one player who was mocked to Miami last year was Jahdae Barron, which is interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. And they went into this year with I don't even remember who was their quarterback one. I remember it was some dude who was so washed that I can't remember. I just remember them getting run out of the stadium by Indianapolis week 1, and everybody was like, "Oh, didn't expect that."
Yeah, they started the season with Artie Burns, I think. Dude, it's bad. You look at their cornerback room and you're like, oh. Like, their starting corners were Jack Jones and Jason Marshall Jr.
Oof. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to lie. Like, I have no idea who. I know Jack Jones. I think he played if it's the same Jack Jones that played for the Raiders, and he was ass. So, yeah. Juju Brents. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not
no,
pretty.
It is not. Well, Halfley has some work cut out for him down there in Miami, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, I think the Pack, and I was also looking at that too. Like the Packers play, I think they played a lot of zone. I think they were like one of the most zone-heavy teams. And honestly, Riley Moss would probably be a better fit for his zone system because that's what he ran in Iowa. So we'll see. But he could play man too because he did a lot of that. Any last thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up?
Not really. No, I think. I Hey, yeah, one more question for you guys. Who are you rooting for this weekend?
In the Super Bowl?
Yeah, because I kind of hate both of these teams. So
Yeah, no, I'm
As a
rooting for the
Bronco.
game to be over.
Yeah.
No, but realistically, I'm probably rooting for the Seahawks. I hate New England. I always have. It'd be cool to see Sam Darnold like complete that turnaround. I've always been one that like kind of trashed on Sam Darnold, but I always said like he obviously has the opportunity to change the narrative, and that would be really cool to see. I like his story, and I think it'd be cool to see him win it.
Yeah, I guess. Seattle, I guess. You know what I'm rooting for? I'm rooting for 9 p.m. Sunday night so this football season can be over. Oh, yeah. You asked any other thoughts? Yeah, the Avs offense is terrible without Natchez. Those were my other thoughts.
Is he out today too?
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. Well, they got 0 points, and I don't even think are they even outscoring the Wings?
No, it's 1-0.
I mean, out shooting them. I mean,
No. Detroit
no,
has 2
they're
more
not.
shots.
That's
than we do.
crazy. Wild stuff. All right, guys. Well, everybody in the chat, we appreciate, man. We had well over 100 in the stream on my channel, which is really good. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys were awesome in the comments. If we didn't get to your questions, we're sorry. But make sure you follow my buddies on all the socials. Kodiak Broncos podcast is Kodiak Broncos on YouTube or Kodiak Broncos podcast on YouTube?
I mean, either way, you look up Kodiak Broncos. I'm sure you'll find me somehow.
It's like Kodiak cakes. Follow them on Twitter, on TikTok. If you'd like to watch people play Madden, you got a Madden channel too, right?
Oh, yeah. Leggy. My last name is Lang, Lang, but you add a Y at the end, you'll be able to watch me play Madden. And unfortunately, I had to sell it for the algorithm, and I rebuilt the Raiders. But you know what? Mark's going to have to, too, on his mock draft channel. So I'm not alone in that.
Yeah, I just got to figure out how to stream my PlayStation onto whatever platform it is. I just can't figure that out still. I'll like YouTube it or something. And then Jeremy at Broncos Unbridled, Jeremy Sean on the Twitter. We had a video yesterday, actually, Jeremy, that reminded me with Mike, me, Kodiak, and Mike, and he's like, we need to figure out another name for Jeremy because I never know if it's Jeremy or I don't know if it's Sean. I'm very confused.
I know. Like
So
when
I was like,
first signed
I'll
up
work
for
with
it-
him on that.
Yeah, when
Huh?
I first signed up for it was Jeremy Sean A, and it ended up having lots of subs from a video I put up. So I was like, I guess that'll be it, Jeremy Sean A. Like okay.
Jeremy Sean A. So
Yeah.
But it's at Broncos Unbridled is the handle if you want to look that up.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all, man. Hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your week. Hopefully the Super Bowl ends sooner rather than later. And we'll catch y'all on the flip side, man. Peace out. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.